Hi, my name is Beth, and I'm a programming assistant for the St. Johns County Public Library System. And you are watching a St. John's Reads program where we're going to do a library tour of the St. Augustine Historical Society and Research Library. St. John's Reads is our annual One Book, One Community program where we feature a book and then have program relating to it all month long. And this year we've chosen the book, The Library Book by Susan Orlean. So we're going to do a few different kinds of library tours and see how different libraries differ from the public library. So I'm very excited to be here in this beautiful building in downtown St. Augustine. Let's go inside and take a look. I'm here with Bob Nawrocki, who is going to give us a tour of the St. Augustine Historical Society Research Library. Hi, Bob.
Hi, Beth. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Great. Well, we're standing in the courtyard of the St. Augustine Historical Society Research Library. And parts of this building go back into the 1780s when it was owned by a gentleman by the name of Bernard Segui. And it has been expanded and increased over the years. But when Mr. Segui had the property, it was during the second Spanish occupation of Florida, he had a contract to bake bread for the fort. So about where these statues are, and in this area right here, there would have been a small building which was a bakery and where the slaves would have been housed at that time. And we've discovered that by archaeological investigation. In 1821, Bernardo Segui sold the building to Judge Smith, who was the first federal judge here in Florida. And this became the Smith family home for about the next 50 years. So as I said, Smith was a federal judge. The house has been remodeled several times, but it's always retained the same basic shape and size. After the Civil War, the building went through several owners. Mr. Disputes purchased the property. The downstairs was a warehouse facility, newspaper printing plant, etc. While the second and third stories were converted into a rooming house.
Ah.
And in fact, this is when the second building was built, this outbuilding. This served as the downstairs was the kitchen, and the second floor was the dining room. So we're able to repurpose this structure here as part of the library. In 1890, the Wilsons, who were wealthy Northerners who vacationed here in Florida, felt that it was important that St. Augustine had a library. So they created the St. Augustine Free Public Library Association. And until the creation of the St. Johns County Public Library System, was, to the best of my knowledge, the only public library here in the city of St. Augustine, St. Johns County. It was during the time of the Wilsons, that some reconstruction, redifferences took place. The stairway was originally located back here in this corner. And so the interior and the stairways were converted into a Victorian era style, East Lake style. So what you have is, you now have a straight stairway that goes straight up. And I'll show you a picture that was done by Tiffany of the building before, but originally the upstairs was open porch with shutters. So that was enclosed, and this building was constructed. So the whole building was turned into a public library. It was called the St. Augustine Free Public Library. It was a subscription library, so you had to pay a modest fee. And it was originally to serve the wealthy Northerners who came down in the winter time. And it was open part-time during the summer as well. And then in the 1980s, it was taken over by the St. John's Public Library. And they were here until, I think, the mid-80s.
Now, in 1987, when the new library building was built, the book collection left and went there. And then the old Free Public Library Association toyed with several ideas of what to do with the building. One of the caveats of the deed of gift from Mr. and Mrs. Wilson was that it should remain a library. So at first they offered it to the Florida Historical Society, which was at that time located on the campus of the University of South Florida. And they were looking for headquarters independent of the university. But they decided not to come to St. Augustine, which is where they had been founded. But they're now in Cocoa. So eventually the Free Library Association turns the building and its endowment over to the St. Augustine Historical Society and to maintain as a library.
Yeah, so this is our map collection. So this is where we have all of our maps related to St. Augustine, St. Johns County, Florida. So we have a variety of county maps, historical maps, reproductions. As you can see, we have a bit of a backlog that we have to take care of, but that is very common to historical societies with a small number of staff, just like all public libraries. All of these boxes here, these white boxes here, are architectural drawings from Craig Thorne. We have a number of architectural drawings from various architects. So a lot of times people come in and say, hey, I'm restoring your building, this architect did it, do you have anything in there? So we will sometimes have the drawings for them. And let me just take you back into the kitchen here and show you something that you don't often find. Excuse me, down here. Okay, thanks. So, why do we have a refrigerator? Well, of course, we always have a refrigerator in a small kitchen, but unlike the usual goodies that we have inside, here we have our glass plate negative collection.
Nice.
And let me show you one of these. So these are the Richard Twine collection. He was the photographer of Lincolnville in the 1920s.
Oh yes, I was actually hoping that we would get to talk about him.
We'll talk about Richard Twine. I have his stuff. So, okay, so here is an actual glass plate negative.
Wow.
So whereas today we have our iPhones and we take thousands of pictures and we don't have to worry about editing or doing anything to them, at this time you would use a actual glass plate covered with special chemicals and then have to have these developed. This is our Manuscript and Archives collection. These are the original papers of individuals, of organizations, of companies. So we have some records that were saved from the Florida East Coast Railway. We have a collection of what are called the city papers. So these are the City of St. Augustine records that go back to the 1820s. And I'll show you one of our minute books upstairs. But we have such things as this is information about the bathing houses that used to be out in the water, and we have elections from 1838. So I'll be showing you some more information about that. But we have church records, we have garden clubs, we have let's see, individual papers. For example, Mr. X.L. Pellissier, Clarissa Anderson Gibbs. We have the Columbus Commission, the League of Women Voters records. We have the Canuck Potato Growers Association from Hastings, Gene Parker Waterbury Collection, Boy Scouts, Buckingham Smith. So we have a wide range of material that we try to preserve for the history of St. Augustine. So people will come here and frankly, people are a lot of times amazed at all the goodies that we have. So
I wish you could see my face. I've got a big giant grin, like hearing all of these different collections. This is amazing.
So this is our reading room. So this is our micrographics area. We're really the only ones who have microfilm readers for the public anymore.
So actually, because we get that question all the time at the library,
Mm-hmm.
so can people make an appointment to use these readers?
Yeah, we are open to the public without charge. We do ask that you have an appointment. But we get a lot of times military veterans who have their military records on Microfiche. They're trying to find some place to copy something off so they can send to the federal government and say, hey, I really did do this, I really had this medical condition, whatever. So, they can come on in and they can make copies here, no charge.
Great, that's
Yeah.
wonderful.
But here, for example, this is a cabinet that has the St. Augustine record from 1894 through about 2011.
Wow.
And then since 2009, we have that on PDFs. So that's on our one of our computers. So we do have the paper for all those years.
Wow.
Available.
That's wonderful, because that's another question that we get a lot. The St. Johns County Public Library doesn't keep that many. We only keep current issues at this point.
In fact, the 2009 through the 2011 I got from you guys.
Oh, what's this book here?
This is the 1830 through 1850 minutes of the City Commission.
Oh.
So if you want to know what happened.
Look at this beautiful handwriting.
Oh yeah, I mean you could actually read this.
That's gorgeous.
And this is a part of our City Papers collection.
It's really beautiful.
Another part of our City Papers collection is we have various election records. So here's a poll list of all the people who were eligible to vote in November of 1883. So once again, you have a list of the names. And this document is from 1857, and it is the plan for a bathhouse.
Oh.
So rather than people going out and bathing in the ocean, you would go to these bathhouses, you would change, and then you would descend into the open space and bathe there. So this is one of the plans.
That's really cool.
And this is a map. This is a hand-drawn map. It's probably the only copy in existence. It's showing the property of Dr. Andrew Anderson, contiguous, situated within the city. So you see Andrew's own Markland. So this is what I had, but here you have the Hotel Ponce de Leon all set out. And then all of his various properties showing, for example, trees. So here we have a line of oak trees. Here's Central Avenue, which is now Martin Luther King. Here's Cathedral Place, King Street. Treasury Street. Tree now standing in concrete walk, formerly stood on embankment. And there's a row of cedars back there. So this is kind of a very interesting material we have.
This is really beautiful. Field filled.
It also shows how Dr. Anderson protected his grove from flooding from the San Sebastian River, because it shows embankments that he had along near Iberia Street. Here is the image of the rear of this building from Tiffany's photographic collection.
And these were some of the photographs of just a very tiny part of our collection. We probably have about 5,000 to 7,000 individual photographs, stereo views, real postcards related to St. Augustine and St. John's history. So these are just some little samples. These are some images from the cross and sword play. We have some aerial photographs, what St. Augustine looked like from the air at various times.
Are any of these photographs digitized, or?
We are actually, in fact, we'll get a chance to see that in just a few minutes, but we are digitizing our photographic collection for the simple reason that every time you touch a photograph, and I violated this by touching them with my bare hands, we really need to put gloves on because those gloves protect you from the oils of your skin. But we're also in a 200-year-old building, so our temperature and humidity fluctuate. We're 3 blocks from the Matanzas River. Thankfully, the closest the flood got to us during Matthew was halfway up Artillery Lane from Charlotte Street, but a flood to this building could be disastrous in terms of so much of our material is unique. It's the only one in existence sometimes, for example, like this map, these minute books. So we're trying to preserve them by digitizing this material as much as possible. I call this the before Flagler map. Because this is before Flagler came in to make all of his changes. One of the most dynamic views you have here is, we think of Maria Sanchez as a lake. Actually, Maria Sanchez was a tidal creek and came all the way up. And in case you're wondering why Bridge Street is called Bridge Street, there actually was a bridge over Maria Sanchez. So here it takes, and this goes all the way up, and eventually peters out into a marsh north of King Street. So some interesting facts. We used to have a roller skating rink in town, right alongside the Matanzas. Unfortunately, Flagler tore that down. But he did move these two churches. And this was a hotel called the Sunnyside. And I don't know if you can see, but there are these two little building structures here. Look like houses, and they've got porches. Well, if you go north on King Street, close to the Boys and Girls Club, on the left-hand side as you're going north, you're going to see a two-story Victorian structure, nicely painted. That is the remaining piece of the hotel. We saw that image of the bathhouse, so here's a later bathhouse. This was Capo's bathhouse. And that was a circular bathhouse. You'd go in there, and depending on the flag, it would tell you if it was Ladies' Day or Men's Day, or Children's Day, and you would go in. They also had hot baths, so if you wanted to take a nice hot bath. Here is probably where the base of King Street is. You would see that there is a boat basin, which got filled in. So it's an amazing, amazing view. Much of the properties through here, hotels, buildings, structures, burned during fires between 1885 and 1914. So it's a fabulous map, these bird's eye maps. One of the interesting things Charles has told me is the fact that you would assume that somebody went up with a balloon or whatever to do the sketches, but no, people would walk down the street sketching the buildings so that they're fairly accurate. I always have a tough time finding our building. Here it is. So here's our building right now. As you can see, it's correct to the number of windows across, to the dormers.
That's amazing. So it's like a modern day Google Maps.
Exactly.
People just went around and
drew. Did quick sketches.
That's amazing.
And give you an idea. So it's a very, very neat map. And we have another map. We don't have a blow up of it, but it's of 1895. Taken from the north looking south. I wish they had done it exactly the same way, but you see the massive changes that took place here in St. Augustine. We have a lot of requests for genealogical information. So our volunteers over the year have created family folders, biography files. So here you have 4 cabinets, and if you're looking at a particular family, there may be genealogy material in there, there may be newspaper clippings, obituaries, that sort of material. So if you're looking to research your family history and they've been here in St. Augustine for a long time, it's a good source. These files are what's called our vertical file collection. So what we try to do is, just as with the biographical material, we would try to collect anything related on various topics. So that here, you open up these cool files. And here is the, let's pick a good one out. Okay, here's the Rose Museum. I didn't know we had a Rose Museum. So you open up the file. And here are some newspaper articles. Here's a little article about it. Here's a picture. Joan Wickham with her miniature book about St. Augustine. And this is from the Rose collection. So we have some handwritten material, publications, newspaper articles. So once again, an obscure little museum you never heard of, but was here in St. Augustine, and it's all collected in our files. One of the more interesting things people will say to me is I'll ask them what they've got a lot of times. And they say, well, you only want old things. And the one thing I tell them is, but today's object is something that 150 years ago people will be looking for. So as you can see with our photo collection, people used to collect photos. We have a number of collections of photo albums. Unfortunately, with the rise of digital photography, people no longer collect photo albums. So for the 400th anniversary, I've got a ton of photos. For the 450th anniversary, I have very few images. So what we try to do is we ask people, hey, look, if you're going to be taking these photographs, would you please make a copy, put them on a thumb drive, or I'll give you a thumb drive and donate them to the society. So we try to collect modern material because today's modern material is something they're going to be looking for 50 years from now. So for the 500th anniversary, Some poor guy's going to come in here to the Historical Society to look and see what we have on the 500, on the 450th, to see what they did. Just as the 450th folks came in to see what we did at the 400th. So these are part of our collection. Another aspect of our collection you may not be aware that we have, and the boxes are not physically located here, they're located at our oldest house site. But we are a repository for the circuit court records for the city, for the county, from 1821 up into the 1940s. Oh. And we're very lucky that these have been indexed into our online catalog. But this is from, let's see, 1824. So these are the court records. So these are the actual court documents.
Again, I got beautiful handwriting.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you couldn't read it then, you were in big trouble.
Yeah.
So, unlike my handwriting, which I can't read 5 minutes after I done it. So these are available as well. So the circuit court still owns those records, but we maintain them for them. So it's an important historical record. People don't think much about what's court records, but you'll find such things as the estate of Abraham DuPont. He has a list of all of the slaves that he owned, and they're grouped according to family groups, so that you will actually know who was married to whom, who their children were, and what their occupations were, what their ages were, and maybe some other what they look like, so they can identify them. So it's a very, very important historical record that we're often not aware of. This is our third floor. This is our book collection and a few other collections, which I'll show you. But we try to collect books related to the history of St. Augustine. And one thing to remember is that when St. Augustine was the capital of La Florida, it was more than just Florida. It actually encompassed much of the southeastern United States. So we try to reflect that in the history, and that as St. Augustine's sphere of influence began to contract, we then sort of changed what we collect. But we try to get as much information as possible that's related to the history, family history, and other information. So it's quite an eclectic collection. And now of course we go to Google to find out somebody's phone number. But here in 1943, we went to the St. Augustine telephone directory. And what is fascinating when you look down here is that, let's see, okay. The Coca-Cola Bottling Company on San Marco Avenue, their phone number was 124. So the longer you were here, so here's the J.O. Miller Cab Company, he was 79. So they'd been in business for quite a long time. So this is one of the more interesting aspects that we have here is our phone books. And we collected these phone books all the way up to pretty much the current time. You know, we try to collect a lot of not obscure material, but material you wouldn't have. So we have a lot of archaeological reports. We have a lot of dissertations and master's theses here related to St. Augustine. We have records for the Evergreen Cemetery and other cemeteries. So here's an interesting book. It's called St. Augustine, St. Johns County Illustrated. And it's full of information and material about St. Augustine. It's got some very neat pictures. It shows houses. It tells you who they were. Sort of an interesting book. But we have the ads. So here's the inside of the Genevar Cigar Emporium.
Where was Bishop's Building?
The Bishop's Building is north of the cathedral. You know, you go past St. George Street and there's a parking lot there. Mm-hmm. That used to be the Bishop's Building. Mm-hmm. So we used to have trolleys in town. So here are the trolleys on King Street. And you used to be able to take the trolley over the bridge down to the alligator farm. Mm-hmm. And here's the wild and crazy guys on the beach in their 1910, 1912 cars.
Oh, look at that.
This is our oral history collection. One of the important things that we can do is to record people's reminiscences during the time they were here. And we've had a fairly active oral history program for a number of years. In fact, right now we're doing a very exciting project. We're creating a surf museum because surfing has been a big cultural item here in St. Augustine. So we have over 50 oral histories with surfers. But what's fascinating is in the Tovar House, we will be instituting a actual museum of surf material.
Very cool.
It's hard to believe, but back in 1916, Charles found a newspaper article about a young man who built a surfboard. So it's hard, what we have to remember that days, surfboards were almost 9 feet long, weighed about 150 pounds, made out of wood. So, but anyway, we're having these oral histories transcribed, and we're making them available to folks so that they can find out about the history of St. Augustine. Here are more microfilm of various newspapers, Spanish land grants, maps, Menorcan archives, census records. We try to collect as much so people can trace the history of St. Augustine. We also have a video collection, so that we have a video. These were two episodes of Route 66 were shot here in St. Augustine, so we have that. But we also have a number of films that were filmed here in St. Augustine. So we have such things as the Code Conspiracy, Celestine Prophecy. I think somebody's using it right now, but we had in about 1988, there was a gentleman, Peter Bogdanovich, well-known film producer, came to St. Augustine and did Illegal Years with Rob Lowe.
Yes.
And people laugh at me because I love the film, but I love the film not because of the acting, but you get to see so much of what St. Augustine looked like in 1988.
And you get to see, I love the scenes where they'll film the outside of one building and then the inside. I think it was the fort, and then they had the
Villa Zareta.
Yeah.
Also, people. When I used to volunteer at the fort, sometimes people would walk. Where's that neat building from? You walk in here and there's nothing. It's just a little room. So we try to collect as much of this material as possible. We also collect. A lot of times, people take videotapes, and we'll transcribe transform those into DVDs. Because just like home movies, they show you what the town looked like. But this is our periodical collection. So these are all some very short-lived publications relating to St. Augustine. So we have Old City Life, which has now merged with another one, St. Augustine Magazine, the St. Augustine High School Literary Magazine, St. Augustine Beaches News Journal, various genealogical collections, Florida Humanities, Florida Anthropologist, Explore St. Augustine, Flagler College Magazine. So we try to collect as much as possible related to St. Augustine. So this is a little bit more about our collection, but what's kind of wild, these look like fairly modern new books, but these are published in Great Britain in the 1790s. So it's history, politics, and literature for the year 1795.
Oh, wow.
But what's most important is that we have those for the period between 1763, so it goes all the way back to 1759, but we have the period from 1763 through 1783 when the British were here in St. Augustine, so we have some material about that, as well as the later volumes during the American Revolution. So it's a really cool historical resource.
Well, thank you so much for this tour. It was so wonderful to get to visit and see all the amazing things in this building, and I just appreciate your time so much.
Not a problem, and certainly I want to tell everybody that we are open to the public. Because of COVID, we do ask that you make an appointment. We have to limit to 4 people. Unfortunately, being a historical society, we have historical figures working here, so we have to be especially careful. But yeah, we are open to the public. There is no charge. And if I'm going to put in a plug for 2 things. One, if you find that this is important and you want to help save St. Augustine history, I certainly hope that you will join the St. Augustine Historical Society, number 1. And number 2, if you have any material, photo albums, collections of photographs, anything that you think we might be interested in, please give me a call, because we try to preserve everything for the future. So in 50 years from now, when Beth's successor is doing this with little thumb and is being beamed into our heads, people will be asking, what we have from the old days. And this is the only way we're going to have it is if you donate it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks so much for joining us here today at the St. Augustine Historical Society Library. Please be sure to stay tuned all month long for other St. John's Reads programs, and we'll see you soon at the library. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Don't forget to put yourself on hold for The Library Book by Susan Orlean. This is our St. John's Reads pick. If you need help placing a hold, just ask anybody at your local library.